I'm going to share my story about how I built a multi-six-figure design studio at age 25, and I am not going to leave out any little detail. This video is probably going to be pretty long, but the reason I am going to include all of the little details and things that happened is because I truly believe that the universe guides you in the right direction and kind of gives you signs when you're in alignment with your purpose. And in my opinion, these little details are evidence of that. At the time I'm recording this, it is November of 2022, and I'm going to take you all the way back to 2016 when I graduated high school. I was working part-time at Domino's, and I knew that I wanted to pursue graphic design, and I wanted to go to a private design school. And I started attending design school in late 2016. My first year was a lot of learning, a lot of improving. I really had to better my design skills that year, and a lot of growth happened skill set wise. I was living in a dorm, and during my second year, I was invited to volunteer at an event in our school. Now, at this point in time, I had been kind of watching YouTube videos from Gary Vaynerchuk and Chris Do from the future, and I was starting to get really inspired by the idea of entrepreneurship, but I still never really thought that I could start a business myself. That idea never crossed my mind at that point. This event that I was asked to volunteer at for my school involved a speaker, and the speaker was actually an author of a book called The Success Principles. And I wasn't really a big reader, and I had no idea who this guy was, but I was like, whatever, I'll go volunteer at this event and help out. For volunteering, this guy actually gave me a copy of his book and he signed it. I didn't even really plan on reading the book. I was like, cool, okay, I got this book. But I brought it back to my dorm, and one night I sat down, and for some reason I felt compelled to open this book. And after reading the first few pages, I was instantly hooked. This book had stories of famous celebrities, actors, football players, you name it. It talked about the obstacles that they faced and how they persevered to get to their goals no matter what. By the end of that book, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I knew that I wanted to start a business. And I'm gonna leave that book in the description because I honestly think that every single person should read that book. It is so inspiring that I'm actually reading it again, like I'm in the middle of it today. So once I realized that I wanted to start a business, I decided I was going to call it Kenzi Green Design. And obviously, since I was going to school for graphic design, I was gonna offer logo design and business card design, brochure design, all of the things that a graphic designer does. I was gonna be offering those things. What's really cool about this is that I actually did document a lot of these things in a journal, and I'm gonna share some of my journal pages with you guys. In the beginning of 2018, I was kind of exploring social media because I knew that if I wanted to freelance, I was going to have to get online, put myself out there in order to attract clients. And keep in mind, I had never been into social media until now. Like, I had never posted on Instagram stories talking to the camera. I had never sat down and recorded a video. I hadn't done any of these things. So this was super, super uncomfortable for me, but I really pushed myself to do it because I knew in order to be successful, I was going to have to do uncomfortable things. First journal entry talks about how I had posted my first YouTube video. I got like 100 views. I had decorated my dorm. And then I had another journal entry talking about my brand partnership with Moose Munch. That was the first brand I ever worked with. I took a bunch of photos of their popcorn, and it was pretty cool because I was now getting interested in the idea of becoming a content creator and building a following online because of the fact that I wanted to reach more people. I was doing all of this research and knew that I had to do that in order to grow as a person. I did end up convincing my school to sell me a used camera for like 40 bucks because if I was going to start building an online presence, I needed at least somewhat of quality photos. I had about 1,000 Instagram followers at this time. I had worked with 0 clients at this point. Like, Kenzi Green Design wasn't even a registered business. It was just an idea with some social media pages behind it. Fast forward to spring, I had a website up with a few samples of my work, and I did end up having my first client. And this client owned a salon, and I charged $75 for that logo design I did. This was a milestone for me because I learned a lot about working with clients and what to do, what not to do. I think I made like 4 different logos. She hated all of them, and then we went back to the drawing board, and then we settled on this logo because ultimately like that's what she wanted. Do I like it? No. I want to make that very clear. I would never ever charge that little or design something that looks like this today, but that was what freelancer Kenzi did back in the day. Throughout 2018, I had a few more clients, and I had a lot of bad experiences because I didn't know how to set boundaries as a freelancer. I was really overworking myself. I wasn't charging enough, but I did start learning how to work with clients and started charging more and more with each and every client that I received. I also joined Upwork, and I would just basically go to class and then come home and get on Upwork and look for jobs and post on Facebook and post on social media. My life really consisted of school, work at night, and then the weekends downtime. Other than that, I really didn't have much of your typical party college experience, and I have zero regrets about that. That's not what I wanted to focus on. I wanted to focus on building a business. I thank my younger self all the time for doing that. Moving on to August of 2018, after having a few clients, I was like, okay, it's time for me to take this seriously, and I need to go register my business. Like, I need to make this thing legit. So I worked with a CPA to help get my business registered, and Kenzi Green Design was official. Moving into 2019, around May was when I was actually supposed to graduate with my bachelor's in interactive media design. And this private design school I went to was a year-round school. So like I was still going to school during the summer, and that's why I was able to graduate so fast. By this time, I was charging about $500 for the logos I was creating, and I was charging about $1,200 to $1,500 for website design projects. Since I was supposed to graduate in May, my significant other and I at this time had been together since high school. We're still together to this day. We've been together for 8 years. He had a part-time job, and then I was just like kind of doing freelance on the side, and like I wanted us to go get a house together. I didn't want to go move back home. I had some savings from working at Domino's during the breaks and then freelancing, but I by no means had stable income, and neither did my significant other at that time. But I really wanted us to go live in a house. I really wanted pet chickens. That's something that I really started to focus on, and I just kept grinding every single day, trying to market myself, trying to get new clients, trying to really start making a stable income. If you know anything about being an entrepreneur in the US, you cannot get approved for a loan unless you have 2 years worth of tax returns, and I didn't have that. We couldn't get approved for a loan to get a house. So I went to my parents and I was like, hey, like I want to move into a house. We don't want to go back home. I'm gonna run this business, like I'm gonna do this thing, like I've already started it, I've already started freelancing. But ultimately they said, no, we're not gonna co-sign on a loan with you. Deep down I knew that they thought we weren't gonna be able to pay the bills and we weren't gonna be able to pay back the loan. I could see from their point of view why they thought that we weren't gonna be able to pay the bills. I believed in myself so much that I knew that this business was gonna be successful. Other people couldn't see it like that. And I think that that's something, as entrepreneurs, you have to be your #1 fan and you have to constantly cheer yourself on. I didn't know how we were going to get a house, but I just kept saying it. I just kept saying, we're gonna get a house, we're gonna go live somewhere, I'm gonna have pet chickens. 1 month before I graduated in May, a house appeared on the market for rent. I was the first one to come see the house and I signed the lease within 24 hours or something like that. And the landlords told us that we could have chickens. I was just mind blown at that point, because to me that was one of the biggest signs of the universe working in my favor and, you know, handing me the tools and resources that I needed to move forward. It was a year lease. It was really, really scary. I was really, really nervous because, like I said, I didn't have stable income. My significant other still had a part-time job. Like, we weren't making a lot of money at that time, and I didn't even know how much I was going to be making every month. But I signed that lease, we moved in, and it was a really great feeling. Although it was really, really scary to have taken on so much responsibility, in my head I was like, you know what, If this doesn't work, if I can't pay the bills, I'll go get a part-time job. I'll figure it out. And when you put yourself in that position, it kind of forces you to have that mindset, like you're going to make this thing work no matter what. Like nobody can tell you anything. You're gonna make this work. And that was my mindset. I'm gonna make this business work. I'm gonna grow this business. I'm not giving up, no matter how hard it gets. 2019 was technically my first year full-time. I did a pop-up event that summer with one of my friends. This is like, I'm sorry, this makes me cringe now. I don't like to use that term. I don't know, I like girl boss. I don't know about that anymore. But at that time, moving on, like I said, I was just like getting clients every now and then, wasn't making a ton. I was just like scraping by. Like when I say scraping by, I mean I was getting some clients, then I was relying on that savings that I had built up while I was in college to help pay the bills and to help cover living expenses and things like that. In the fall of 2019, I had no clients. I had no clients and no income that month. And I look really happy. I look really happy here, but I literally had no clients. But every day I just kept waking up and I was blogging. I was making social media content. I was updating my portfolio. I was interacting in Facebook groups. I was on Upwork. I was doing every little thing I could think of to make sure that I got another client. What happened after this was the next month in October, I did end up getting another client. I came across a course and this was a $350 course. And at that time I was like, holy that's a lot of money. And I just somehow talked myself into biting the bullet and investing in this $350 course. Anyways, this course taught me about something called the one concept method. And this is what I actually teach to my design students nowadays. I ended up booking, I believe, my first ever $4,000 brand and web design project. I couldn't believe that I had booked a client for that much. Again, this was my first year going full-time, and that project was a total success. I had gotten a few more clients before the year wrapped up. My total income for 2019 was a whopping $20,000. I think a lot of people probably would have gotten really discouraged by that. It was discouraging, but I said, hey, it's my first year full-time. I need to keep going. It's gonna keep growing. It's gonna just keep going uphill from here. I'm gonna keep doing this. 2020, I quadrupled. My income quadrupled. 2021 was my first six-figure year, and this year is my first multi-six-figure year. There were multiple things that changed that allowed me to get to multi-six figures. Those things were mindset, rebranding, identifying my weak points and hiring other people who are experts at those things, and improving my client experience. A lot of people, when they hear about mindset, I don't think take it seriously, and it is actually one of the biggest key factors when it comes to raising your prices, because I went from charging $75 for a logo to now having $15,000 clients. To make that shift from $75 logos to huge clients like that, it takes a lot of mindset work. Throughout those few years, I increased my prices, but I also improved the experience that my clients were getting. I had to make sure that I was providing value to my clients, and I did a lot of research to make sure that I was delivering something to my clients that was going to benefit them. During those few years, I also went through multiple rebrands. When I was in college and I first started Kenzi Green Design, I had like a green and black logo because school taught me that I need to be appealing to the masculine and feminine energies. I think that that is so false. That's not true at all, but that's what school taught me. So I started with this really ugly logo. Then I rebranded to something that frankly looked very childish. And then I rebranded again to something a little bit more elevated. And then I rebranded into the Kenzi Green Design that I am now, a more luxurious, high-end design studio. As I had stated earlier, I was just using that like used school camera My second year in business, I invested in a photographer who kind of just did photography on the side. And then I invested in my now brand photographer, Madeline, who specializes in brand photography. And the photos were better than anything I had ever gotten before. So with the rebranding, with the redesign of things, I was also investing in my photography and making sure that my presence and everything matched the type of brand experience I wanted to give my clients. I also ended up investing in a bookkeeper. I think that when it comes to building a business, you really need to identify your weak points and start investing in those weak points as soon as you can. So that's pretty much it for my business story. If you have any more questions or things that you would like me to elaborate on in another video, I am more than happy to do that. You can find me on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.